All right. Hello, everybody. Beagle Boy here. And today I'm going to be doing a quick little stream called, well, not called, but I'm going to be doing a little tier list stream, kind of just as a for fun thing, as pretty soon it is going to be the 35th anniversary to one of my favorite franchises of all time, Sonic the Hedgehog. And out of the 3.5 decade long history, there have been quite a few games that have celebrated the anniversaries. However, I am only doing the mainline and the games that have landed on the anniversary years itself. So that means I'm going to be covering the games from Sonic 1 all the way to Sonic Generations as a result. Therefore, let us begin. We start with the very first one, the one that kicked off the Blue Blur's career on the Sega Genesis. And I'm going to give this a bit of an A ranking. As for a first title, it does get the job done. It's mostly overshadowed by Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 in terms of the Genesis classics. But other than that, this is a nice little decent game that was sending its message to Nintendo as well as Mario as well. However, we are not clear out of the woods yet when it comes to the classic lines, because we also have Sonic 1 for the Master System and Game Gear. And I am going to rank this in the C tier because the only one I've played was the Game Gear version through the Mega Collection port on PlayStation 2. And I can definitely say that this definitely works better without the screen crunch if you're playing it on the Master System, i.e. Virtual Console or whatever means you have to play it. I would definitely recommend doing it that way. Now, the next game we are going to cover, Sonic Blast. And yeah, honestly, this one is hot garbage. I'm going to put it right there because this game is flat out fucking boring. It's an attempt to try to make it was an attempt to make the Game Gear handle the pre-rendered graphics that the 3D Blast console game that we'll cover momentarily be able to handle, but using it on a Game Gear just was not cutting it in any way, shape, or form. The game felt very easy to get lost, and it felt like an entire maze. So that being said, we are going to move on to Sonic 3D Blast, and I'm gonna put it in the D rank territory because as a whole, there are both the Genesis and Saturn versions do have their own pros and cons that do kind of reflect each other. Genesis, I think, had the better soundtrack and the better background colors as a whole. However, the Saturn definitely had the better character movement with the 3D controller as well as the better special stages. One plus to the Genesis version is that it has no load times, whereas 3D Blast definitely has some pretty long load times, to say the least. But as a whole, I'm putting it in the D rank territory. Now, we move on to the modern games, and I'm with Sonic Adventure 2, and I'm putting this in the S rank territory because this honestly was a very incredible game, from the story to the movement to the replayability and almost everything in between. Yeah, there are some occasional bugs and there are some plot holes that the game does offer, but I think whatever Adventure 2 did itself justice between it being between being expansive and still being something to get into for everyone. Sonic Advance, on the other hand, I'm going to say right now, even after the fan games and all the other titles in between, I'm going to say Advance definitely feels like a proper spiritual successor to the classics in any way it can, while given a more modern twist. This pretty much is like a best of both worlds between something more modern like the Rush titles, or something more classic like the Genesis titles as a result. That said, I do think the advanced titles are definitely deserving of a modern port on modern day hardware, specifically on Switch 2. Now, this is where we start getting a bit muddied a bit. Sonic Riders, on the other hand, while definitely a good attempt to do the racing without all the carts, it was really hard to get into control wise. It's not a broken mess, but it definitely has a steep learning curve that is definitely polarizing. Then we come to '06. What else can I really say about this that hasn't been said already? Moving on. Rivals. This one's going in the D category. I'd say really only like going for the 100% is not needed because all four campaigns, there's only like two you ever like really need to keep up with, while the other two are just reskins. Like you have Sonic and Knuckles, who have the same campaign with Eggman, and then you have Shadow and Silver that have Eggman Nega, and it all just doesn't really. It's like you only have to complete them really once to really know what's going on. So I would say if you're not going for the 100% category, still give this one a shot, but it really is not worth revitalizing. But it's not worth going 100%. And now you have Generations. And I'm just going to say, trying to judge this without the Shadow campaign that was re-released, definitely another top tier. Like, I would say check out the PC version of this one because there are a bunch of fan-made mods with different characters, different stages as well that definitely give it the better experience. The campaign is kind of short and, it's just like a few remastered levels, few remastered stages. Well, I mean, remastered bosses, and that's about it. So it did feel a bit shorter than it should have been, but I'd say what it does well, it does well enough. It's definitely replayable, that you can keep coming back and trying again and again. But I would definitely recommend the PC version for all those cool mods if you decide that you want to try. If you want to give Generations a try or you want to get into the franchise, definitely give Generations a go. And that is where we conclude this tier list. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you see, then feel free to give a thumbs up, comment down below what you thought, and if you want to see more like this, feel free to subscribe and click the bell icon to stay posted, and I will see you all next time. Have a good evening, a day, or whatever time zone you're in, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.